All right, I think we're in business. So I'm Dr. Heather Sandison, and I created Marama. I'm joined tonight by Chef Julio.
Nice to meet you, Dr. Sanderson. I really appreciate the chance to speak on the webinar tonight as the chef from Marama.
We're so excited to have you here to share all of your tips and tricks that you've learned from working in the Marama kitchen here with us, with all of our viewers tonight, so that you might be able to implement this at home. And we hope that you'll learn a little bit more about what we're doing here at Marama. So everyone knows, please put all of your questions in the chat or in the Q&A section. We will be answering those. We're going to go through our presentation first. And yes, there will be a replay. So let's dive in. All right, so a few keto basics. What we do here at Marama is a ketogenic diet. And this is kind of like a light switch is how I describe it to patients. Essentially, you're burning fat for fuel or you're burning sugar for fuel. Very, very rarely do both sugar and fat arrive at your brain to be used and turn into fuel. So what we want is for your brain to be burning fat for fuel. This is a brain healing diet. This is a detox diet. This is also an anti-inflammatory diet. So the way we do a ketogenic diet here at Marama is very much focused on fats and proteins and veggies. What we want to do for most people, if we limit carbohydrates to about 50 grams a day, they will achieve ketosis. Now, everyone's a little bit different. Our metabolisms are a little bit different. And the goal here is to change your metabolism. And so some people will need to get 30 grams of carbohydrates. Other people are going to be able to get away with 70. Those are the lucky ones. They're going to get a little bit more carbohydrates in their diet and still manage to stay in ketosis. So one of the things that I recommend doing is really committing to this process is doing a finger stick. So we recommend the Keto Mojo ketone meter to our patients at Solsari at the clinic, and that we also do that at the clinic. At Marama, we are by definition residential, not medical, so we can't do the finger sticks all the time, but we routinely get blood levels and as well as urine levels of ketones. And the urine levels, usually for the first 30 days or so, are a great way to check if you're actually in ketosis. So this is important because some people get really, really close. They're almost in ketosis, but it's that one thing they picked up from Costco, or it's that cake they had at somebody's birthday party on Sunday, and they just can't quite get into ketosis, even though they're making the right decisions most of the time. This is really, like I said, a light switch. You're either all the way in or you're burning sugar for fuel. The other thing that we want to understand about ketosis is that we don't want you in ketosis forever. So this isn't a diet that is a forever thing, just like we don't want someone burning sugar for their entire lives. We don't want someone burning fat for fuel for their entire lives. It's really about metabolic adaptability and that dynamic ability to bounce back and forth, kind of like our ancestors did. 100,000 years ago, we did not have access to sugar all the time. We didn't have access to fats all the time either. And so our body needed to be able to burn the fuel that was available to us. And our body, in fact, prefers to be doing that, to get that sort of metabolic exercise. So a few things to consider here as we launch into the keto conversation. This is sometimes, I'm not surprised anymore, but this is sometimes a controversial topic, right? Because we have been told for so long, certainly through the 80s and 90s, that fat was the culprit. Fat was what was killing us. Fat was what was bad for us. And what we understand now, the science is really pretty clear. The best diet for your brain is a high fat, good fats. We'll go into that, what good fats and bad fats are, but a really good high fat diet is actually the healthiest diet for your brain. And so if you are struggling with dementia or Alzheimer's or memory loss, getting into ketosis means giving up a few of these preconceived ideas that you might have been brainwashed by that food pyramid. Someone should go to jail for that because it has caused many lives to end too soon because of diabetes and heart disease. High sugar is really the poison here. So this ability to give up processed foods and an openness to cooking and eating in a new way. And Chef here is going to give us a bunch of tips on that. We're going to go through recipes. Get your cameras out. And I hope you guys have all had dinner, because certainly as I was creating this presentation, I got so hungry looking at all of Chef's pictures. Again, there's a commitment to the process. So many times people will go through a keto flu, and this is essentially like achy joints, fatigue, sugar cravings, certainly, irritability. So don't break up with your partner too quickly. Like, let them get up over those 3-4 days, sometimes 3-4 weeks of that keto flu, of feeling kind of icky as you literally go through withdrawals. You get rid of that sugar addiction that so many of us have. So committing to the process, knowing there's going to be a little bit of ups and downs, is certainly what's required for success here. Another thing to consider is just you're going to have to shop a little bit differently. So when you go to the grocery store, be willing to let go of some of those quick snack foods, the chips and all that stuff in packages. You've probably heard this advice from someone before, but you want to shop the outside edges of the grocery store, where the meats and the produce are, where those whole foods are. So we're going to give you, again, some more ways to get creative and learn some super yummy recipes. So things that you can rest at ease around is you do not have to be hungry and deprived through the ketogenic diet. This is a very satisfying diet. This is not about limiting calories. You actually probably will increase your caloric intake, and usually weight either drops or stabilizes. Also, we are not big proponents of shakes and bars and meal replacements. Again, more things in packages. We really encourage you to stay away from and really rely more on like the whole foods and getting creative in the kitchen with those fresh ingredients. Things don't have to be perfect. So you want to be all in, but don't be too hard on yourself. It doesn't have to be perfect to get into ketosis. We typically aim for, on the Keto Mojo, we aim for over 1. Now, the literature does suggest that the higher you get that number, if you get it to a 2, a 3, a 4, we often will see that our patients in the clinic and our residents at Marama do even better. So I'm going to push you a little bit, but don't let that stop you from getting started. You also don't need to worry about having to go to specialty stores, buying fancy, expensive ingredients. This can really be done with a lot of the basics that you're going to find at your local grocery store. All right, so here are some of the nitty-gritty details of what is going on when ketones hit your brain. So if ketones are arriving at your brain, they can be used as fuel. Ketones only get there if we reduce the sugars. So if there's plenty of sugars arriving in your brain, they will be used. Now, if both arrive, both sugar and ketones, this is very rare, but when that happens, your brain actually prefers to use ketones. They are a super fuel. You may have heard of Alzheimer's disease referred to as type 3 diabetes. And the reason this is because sugar, essentially Alzheimer's disease can be also thought of as a metabolic process in the brain, particularly in the areas of the memory centers like the hippocampus. If a lot of sugar and a lot of insulin have arrived at the hippocampus for years and years and years, then your brain doesn't do a very good job metabolizing that sugar. This can be insulin resistance. So basically the sugar isn't getting into the cell to be used as fuel, or even in the cell, your body doesn't do as efficient of a job at turning that into ATP, or that currency of the cell, that fuel that it needs to run on. And so what you end up with is a sluggish brain, which means memory loss, not being able to find the words, or your phone, where you set your phone down, or your keys, right? All of these things that people struggle with sometimes are just because we're not getting enough energy, or the energy isn't being, the fuel isn't being used effectively. So what would you do if your car was running on fuel, but not very effectively? Well, one answer would be change the fuel. So that's what we're doing when we get into ketosis. We're changing the fuel. And in that case, you get very effective use of the fuel and more energy, and the brain can start to repair itself. So there's different types of fats. Omega-3s are one type of fat, and this is literally what your brain is made of. And this is used more to create less inflammation in the brain, where MCTs or the medium chain triglycerides, often found in coconut milk, coconut oil, coconut butter, anything coconut has a lot of medium chain triglycerides, those directly turn into ketones. If you're struggling to get into ketosis at home, one of the tricks is just to add more MCT, add more coconut, add more fat. That can help you get there, especially if you or your loved one has maybe limited their diet too much, or they're not consuming as many calories and still struggling to get into ketosis. Add fats. Cholesterol is another place where we get a lot of questions, because again, cholesterol, kind of like fats, has been vilified. And really, it's oxidized cholesterol that creates a problem in the heart and in the brain, in the blood vessels. So what we want to do is make sure we're getting you really good cholesterol. I tell my patients I really worry when their cholesterol gets too low, whether that's because of medications like statins, or it's because their diet is restricted in fats. If I see cholesterol below 150, 140, a total cholesterol, I start to worry about depression, anxiety, low libido, poor wound healing. And this is because cholesterol is the backbone of your sex hormones and stress hormones. Absolutely essential to good mood, muscle, everything working. So really, really important to have enough cholesterol, but enough of the right cholesterol. What we see in a ketogenic diet is typically over 12 to 24 weeks, we actually see total cholesterol coming down. So initially, as you raise dietary fats, cholesterol can go up a little bit, but don't be alarmed. Most likely, if you get into ketosis, unless you have some significant genetic abnormality, and this is relatively rare, then you will see that cholesterol coming down over time. And that's because you're burning that for fuel. So it actually is a great way, a ketogenic diet is a great way to balance cholesterol levels. The proteins and amino acids are so essential. We're focusing again on fats and amino acids. And that is because amino acids are the backbone of your neurotransmitters. So when we talk about neurogenesis, the formation of new neurons, this is so important in what we're striving for with the ketogenic diet and everything else we do at Marama, the activities and the brain games and the environment, the engagement, all of those things are helping to promote neurogenesis, but we've got to get those building blocks there. Now, the other piece is that we need to have those neurotransmitters, our GABA, our dopamine, our serotonin, everything that epinephrine, norepinephrine, all of these big words that you've probably heard of, but nowhere associated with mood and attention and that ability to create memories. These are absolutely essential. So we get lots of good, high quality proteins, and amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. Carbohydrates are also important. We do not exclude them completely. Most of the carbohydrates are going to be coming from vegetables, good, fresh, organic, at Marama, organic vegetables. And those carbohydrates and those all of the plant nutrients are again really essential to, we've got to get all three of those macronutrients, but we're mostly focused on getting those calories from fats and proteins. So one other thing that comes up very regularly with the ketogenic diet is this word keto, and it's the confusion with diabetic ketoacidosis. So there's a researcher who studies the ketogenic diet, and he always reassures people that if the ketogenic diet, the therapeutic ketogenic diet we're talking about here is like a gentle rain shower, and diabetic ketoacidosis is like a hurricane. This is a storm, right? So these are very different levels of ketosis. And it's certainly true that ketones are acids. Beta hydroxybutyrate is a butyric acid. So we want to not have too much acidity in the body. There needs to be an acid-base balance. But that's not a concern when you're having a really good, healthy ketogenic diet. You do not have to worry about the pathology that's associated with diabetes or diabetic ketoacidosis. Talking about very, very different things. So I want to direct your attention and let you know that there are tons of resources out there that are really, really valuable. Of course, Dr. Bredesen is a dear friend, a mentor, and a huge supporter of Marama. We're so grateful for him and all that he has published. He really has paved the way for Marama to exist. He wrote the book you can see here, The End of Alzheimer's. I also am a huge fan of this book, The Neurogenesis Diet by Dr. Brent Courtwright, a friend of mine and an instructor up at the California Institute for Integral Studies. And then this book, a lot of the information that you're getting here tonight is in both of these books with research and all of the the published scientific papers that you can look to. So this book, The Alzheimer's Antidote by Amy Berger, is also a fantastic one. So without further ado, I would love to turn things over to Chef Julio here to talk more about the details of what we do and how we get this ketogenic diet into all of our residents here at Marama.
First of all, I want to say thank you to Dr. Sanderson. The way she implements the Bredesen protocol at Marama is so amazing. Everything is so detailed and all the ingredients are so pure, organic, and fresh. And even to the point where Dr. Sanderson hired a chef to personally make food, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks for the residents here. Everything that we make here has to be organic, grass-fed, wild caught, just natural ingredients so that the Bredesen protocol can play its role. And the residents can actually recover and even reverse Alzheimer's that allowed them to, so that they can be allowed to live a normal life like everyone else. All the recipes here at Marama that we make, minus some, desserts and things like that, are all made. I create these recipes. So all the recipes have to have certain ingredients, certain instructions, and certain ways to make it. Implementing what doctor said, fats, high healthy fats, such as coconut, avocado oil, even bacon fats, as well as butter and extra virgin olive oil. So all of these ingredients that we use, we try to use as pure as possible, organic, completely organic, so that everything can take place in according to time and the residents can recover quickly. I myself have seen the residents recover more quickly than I haven't been here too long, but I have witnessed the residents remember more things, remember situations and environments they've been in just because of following the ketogenic diet. So when it comes to the clean and organic foods, it, of course, right, we can find it at Sprouts or different grocery stores around us, but it's more of not how you use it, but like when you use these ingredients. So we're going to see in the PowerPoint, later in the PowerPoint, how fish is implemented, beef is implemented, vegetables are implemented, and how the residents can get a variety of different types of meals throughout the whole month and throughout their daily time frame.
So let's go there. This is an example. We just grabbed 12 days off this October, this month's calendar, so you can get a sense. Again, get your cameras out. I'll leave this up for a couple of seconds here so that you can get a sense of what types of things are showing up on the menu and hopefully inspire you guys to get creative. I think Chef Julio makes such a great point with this. Doesn't have to be a boring diet where you're eating the same things all the time. It really can be exciting and creative, and he's just phenomenally passionate and really brings that into the kitchen. You'll notice things like oatmeal on here. So this is a keto oatmeal. So can you tell us what's in the keto oatmeal?
Yeah, keto oatmeal seed, almond meal, chia seeds, and almond milk with vanilla. You can also put almond butter for flavor, and also you can put some keto monk fruit syrup. I added fresh berries on top just for flavor and for color, but the keto oatmeal is not actually oats. It's actually all made of the flaxseed, which is a good fiber source for the residents so that they can get that fiber they need in their meals. When I created this menu, you often think, oh, why am I eating the same food every day? I myself, when I lived with my mom, right, she made the same meal every day, beans and rice every day. So you get bored of the same meals. Of course, the residents have Alzheimer's, but we shouldn't take that to advantage. The residents should get their nutrients and their vitamins and a different variety of different ingredients concerning meats and vegetables, soups, sauces, and even dressings so that they can get everything they need. And the ketogenic diet, it doesn't become boring, but it gets even more exciting. There's just so many ingredients and so many different recipes that one can make using Dr. Bredesen's protocol and following that protocol so that with the mindset to recover from Alzheimer's.
So Chef's going to take us through some of the recipes that we use here. Make sure you're signed up for emails because we are going to send this out as a PDF, and we're working together on a cookbook, a Marama cookbook, so that it's easier for everyone to implement at home. So Chef, take us through some, we're going to go, don't worry, there's lots of desserts, but we're going to go through kind of like a day in the life of what someone at Marama would be eating, what they would be served here. So bacon ricotta egg bites.
Okay, so bacon ricotta egg bites is a breakfast snack. So sometimes for breakfast, we may not serve them eggs, or we may not serve them a specific protein, but we also implement snacks. So if they don't get the protein or eggs in the morning, they'll definitely get it throughout the day for that protein and for that fat. So this is actually a breakfast snack that is made completely organic. Everything contains the ketogenic ingredients needed. As you can see on the recipe, it also says cashew milk sour cream. Yes, they sell a substitute sour cream with cashew milk. And the reason why I like using the cashew milk is because it actually allows the egg to grow. It actually makes it poofy. And the residents really love like how the texture of the egg bites are. So this is completely keto. The avocado slices is the healthy fat, and even the flavor of the bacon allows everything to just, it's like breakfast in one bite.
And I love that you're using rosemary. Rosemary is actually an herb that's associated with memory. And so the more rosemary, the better. Yeah,
herbs are really great in food. So I really like using dry herbs. If no one knows, dried herbs are for long-term cooking, and fresh herbs are actually used to finish the meal. So I really like to use the dry herbs in the beginning stage of cooking, and then when you finish the meal, garnish or implement the fresh herbs.
So cauliflower, beef hash, and fried eggs. Yum.
So when I made this dish, I actually did think about my grandma, very simple meal, but yet really good. So everyone loves corned beef hash. Then why shouldn't we let the residents receive corned beef hash? Cauliflower rice is really easy to make. You grate the cauliflower and you also cook it with onions and garlic with ground beef and put the herbs needed to make it taste like hash. And it's the most simple, amazing breakfast you can get with fried eggs.
And just so everyone knows, I have to cheat at home because I am not lucky enough to have Chef Julio cooking for me. There is organic riced cauliflower in the frozen section at Costco. So this is easy, and cauliflower 9 out of 10 times keeps people in ketosis. So it's a great substitute if you're used to eating a lot of rice, and to kind of make it feel a little bit more carby, especially as you're transitioning out of a diet full of sugar and where you're burning sugar for fuel and into ketosis. It hits that craving.
Lunchtime. So keto lunches are different varieties, right? After, I believe, the snack time, before snack and after snack, the residents do exercise. So when it comes to the lunch, we don't want to give them something really heavy because of the activities that they're going to do following the Bredesen protocol. So either there's an option of vegetarian dishes, fish or chicken, and occasional beef. Usually leave the beef for dinner. But this specific lunch is called also roasted vegetables, portobello stack. It's different varieties of organically grown, fresh, natural vegetables with cashew milk cheese. This is a very simple dish. All we do is we roast each vegetable individually in accordance with its time, and then we stack it up. And then underneath is actually a spinach or asparagus sauce made from either vegetable broth, chicken broth, or beef broth. It really depends on which protein or which nutrients or vitamins you want to eat yourself or give to the residents. But this meal actually contains a lot of fiber. It contains a lot of nutrients needed for their brain function, and it's completely keto. And the fats used in here is the extra virgin olive oil. So the extra virgin olive oil actually provides that fat in this meal. Sometimes it's restricted or it's not necessary to give too much eggplant, but the eggplant, if you actually let it sit with salt for 2 hours, it'll extract the inflammatory ingredients in the eggplant. So if you let it sit with salt, you'll see the water come out of it. And that's what the best time to use the eggplant. That's when you roast it. So a lot of people don't know that, but that's when the eggplant is at its best.
That's great. That's such a good tip. Thank you. And also, I'm so intimidated by that picture. That just looks so fancy. I don't think I could do that myself. So thank you for reassuring all of us that it's actually pretty simple.
Yeah, very simple.
Lemon pepper salmon with lemon butter sauce. Yum. I'm salivating. Are you guys?
So this dish, you can do it multiple ways. It depends on what type of fish you like. A salmon is really good. The wild caught king salmon is really good. And any salmon with lemon butter sauce is amazing. Just the name, right? You may be intimidated, but it's actually very, very easy. It's seasoned salmon with salt and pepper, and you squeeze lemon on it. And then you roast it in the oven until it's done. Now, when it comes to the butter sauce, it's shallots and garlic, a little bit of fish broth or chicken broth, reduce it a little bit and finish it up with butter, as much butter as you want.
Grass-fed. We like the Kerrygold.
And these are actually our super drinks that we use for snack. So the super drinks we try to implement to their diet at least twice a week. I like to call it the Popeye juice because the residents, they really don't like to drink the green juice because it's so healthy. But actually, you can make this juice really good with red bell peppers or even a slice of green apple. So it's still part of the Bredesen protocol, the ketogenic diet, and it's a great source of vitamins that you can drink as a shot. And as you can see on the recipe, it's kale, cucumber, celery, lemon, ginger, and power greens, which is a mix of spinach, chard, and kale served over crushed ice. So this, if you make it you can make this and implement it with any type of organic ingredients that you would like to use yourself at home or any ingredients that you can find at the store.
So this can be time consuming, right? I'm just going to give everyone permission to buy green juices. And if you do so, please, please, please double check that 100% of the ingredients in your green juices are organic, because if the not, you're getting just concentrated pesticide juice, right? So I've had patients at Solseri where they come in concerned about fatigue or some new symptom. And what we discover is they're actually being essentially poisoned by Whole Foods or someplace that you would think would have all organic in their green juices, but they're cutting corners and it's not organic. And many of these, like celery, kale, they are on the dirty dozen. So they are the types of produce that actually get sprayed the most with pesticides and herbicides. So please, please, please be careful. We don't want to be adding neurotoxins when we're trying to help the brain recover.
I'm glad you brought that up because sometimes we may think that something is organic or gluten-free, but we may not have actually an idea. For example, recently we just discovered that a chili powder was not gluten-free because it was processed in a factory that produced gluten. We made ourselves aware of that and changed it because there's also some spices that you can find that are organic, but it will not say gluten-free. So you need to make sure that if you buy spices, even spices, that you look at the ingredients that they're gluten-free as well, because we don't want any gluten to be mixed into the present protocol, the ketogenic diet, because it affects the process of the what we're trying to accomplish.
The reason that we looked is because one of our residents here had a stool test and she had antibodies to gluten. And I said, what? Like, how is that possible? She only eats at Marama. It's 100% gluten-free. And so that was why we did some digging in the pantry. Where could the contamination be coming from? And so sure enough, we found it. If you look, you'll usually find something. We also have a staff member here who has celiac disease. And so we take it very, very seriously. At home, you know, our standards, I hope that you're getting this, that our standards are maybe higher than, well, certainly higher than any other residential care facility that exists. And we just want to make sure that we're not missing anything that might help someone or might hurt someone. We want to make sure that we are only providing the healthiest, best foods, and even water. We get water from Carlsbad water, which is a spring water, naturally occurring spring water that has third-party testing. The tap water, unfortunately, in San Diego here is not the best. We're at the end of the river, the end of the line. And so there's lots of contaminants. And so we really go out of our way to make sure that the residents are only getting the best food, water, anything that goes in them is non-toxic. So snacks, this is fun. We can get really creative here.
When it comes to keto snacks, when you go to the store, you may find a whole shelf full of keto snacks. But you have to be really careful when you pick keto snacks or even make keto snacks. They have to follow the ketogenic diet fully to the T, organic, very simple. And sometimes those keto snacks that you find at the store, there's ingredients that we shouldn't be consuming. So if you do purchase keto snacks, please read the ingredients so that you're careful and it doesn't affect the recovery process for the Alzheimer's. When we make keto snacks here, it also comes to us making the food from scratch. Everything we make, whether we make bars or we make chicken salad or fat bombs, meatballs, everything that we make that are considered snacks, small portions, we make it from scratch. Everything has to be clean and organic and fresh. Of course, right, at home, it may be really hard, right? Really hard to make snacks from scratch, but it's as easy as it sounds.
It takes a little extra time, but not too much, and it's worth it. So desserts, as promised, we have lots of ketogenic desserts, and this is a fantastic example of one. And we'll share some pictures of others, but what do the residents say about the desserts here?
The residents love the desserts. It's so funny because they actually ask for desserts after every meal. But of course, right, we can't give them desserts after every meal. It's very limited, but it's good because it allows them to, you know, they become joyful. They get really happy when it comes to desserts, and they're really earnest to eat the desserts. So, you know, I'm actually implementing a menu for desserts and ketogenic ice cream, such as
got some pictures of that.
Cheesecakes, cookies. These are all keto desserts, lemon bars. This is actually a chocolate lava cake. Everything that we make is keto for the residents and low sugar, natural sugars, so that it doesn't affect their diet. So even though they're on this keto diet, strict keto diet, it doesn't affect anything in their system when they eat these desserts.
Yeah, the blood sugar, so the blood sugar won't go up, but you're still getting that sweet craving is satiated. And you know, to me, I'm a naturopathic doctor, right? So I think it's a little bit crazy that when we celebrate birthdays and anniversaries, like the couple here is celebrating, when we celebrate holidays, often what we're doing is just poisoning ourselves with sugar and alcohol. Well, there are alternatives. We can show up with really healthy, if we're going to a potluck or something, we can show up with really healthy and sweet treats that promote health and the ones we love, right? So there are options. It takes getting a little bit creative, but it doesn't mean you have to go without if you're on a ketogenic diet. So one thing to drive home here is that the ketogenic diet is doctor prescribed. So for everyone living at Marama, we have to get doctor's orders. And with that, our residents are elderly, they're vulnerable in lots of ways. So we want to make sure that people aren't losing too much weight. They aren't gaining too much weight. If the goal from your doctor is to maintain your weight or lose some or gain some, we are aware of that so that we can help create a diet that is specific for them. We also have a resident with interstitial cystitis that's triggered by things like citrus and a handful of other things that are kind of histaminergic. And so she avoids those. And we make sure that there's always food available, plenty of food available for her that doesn't have those triggering foods. For people who have the ApoE4 status, in my work as a researcher, I have seen that some people are just fine with saturated fat. So with your coconut oils and usually it's the MCT and the coconut oil that we're worried about there, because that's the healthiest of the saturated fats. And we want to be boosting that on the ketogenic diet. But ApoE4 status, if you're a 4-4, even sometimes the 3-4, there can be a kind of a variation in how you metabolize fats. And so we want to be aware of that. We want to be testing. And if your doctor has done that with you or your loved one, and you're a resident of Marama, we can exclude those from the diet if necessary. Also, some people have reservations about too much animal protein. We don't restrict animal protein, right? We're really focused on fats and proteins and veggies, and we're restricting the carbs. So we do want to make sure people feel satiated. And a lot of that does come from animal protein. Now, the animal protein we get is 100% organic, grass-fed, regeneratively farmed. So we are getting the highest quality meats. This last weekend, I went and picked it up from Jimbo's, a store here in our neighborhood, because we were getting a large order for Marama, and we're just starting to work with them. And we worked with other farms, and we're really focused on getting the highest quality animal protein. So let that reassure you, and also I hope inspire you to find the highest quality animal proteins, even if cost is an issue, have a little bit less rather than getting the cheapest or the least expensive meats. Here are some pictures of our residents, healthy, joyful, getting exercise and getting out in the garden that we have here, the greenhouses we have here at Marama. They're getting replanted for the fall season. These are some summer harvest photos of tomatoes and collard greens. Lots of yummy things come out of the garden down there. So if you or a loved one are interested in having Julio be your personal chef, then please go to maramaexperience.com/apply and fill out an application there. Carrie is our director of operations and new resident coordinator. So she will help. There's quite a bit of paperwork. So get that started early. We are running out of space quickly here, but also looking at expanding. So get that application in right away. If you have an interest, let us know so we can save a spot for you. We're gonna move on to questions now. So get those in the chat. Okay. So, oh, wonderful. So there's a lot of questions around substitutions. So there are lots of substitutions out there, certainly something like ricotta. Do you have any thoughts on substitutions?
Ricotta cheese, that's just one ingredient that you can use for the snack, but it's not necessary. I've looked for replacements like with dairy, with certain products and cheeses, but so far I can find is cashew milk, sour cream, and cashew milk cheese. The cashew milk cheese is actually really good. I was actually surprised on how good it actually tastes. It doesn't taste horrible at all. It actually has a really good flavor. So you can actually use the cashew milk cheese if you don't want to put dairy on top of the the appetizer because the cashew milk sour cream goes inside, and you can use the cashew milk cheese on top.
Yum.
And it makes it completely non-dairy.
So Pamela, thank you for the question, and please experiment at home. Send us photos, tag us on Instagram or Facebook with photos of what you're inspired to cook after hearing from Chef Julio and I. And we'd love to hear how it goes with trying some of the cashew cheese instead of ricotta. Sarah's asking if we can comment on Beyond Meats. So Beyond Meat is a vegan product. It's highly processed. And so typically on the Bredesen protocol, on the Bredesen diet, and then also here at Marama, we really aim to reduce anything that's processed. So we tend to avoid, even though they are vegan, we tend to avoid things that are overly processed. I will say from my clinical experience, what we notice is that people tend to have gastric upset, so gas, bloating, and other things happening when they're having especially too much of the processed meat products.
Have you ever heard of you are what you eat? The ketogenic diet is so healthy, so natural, and every ingredient we use is organic. It actually allows not just residents with Alzheimer's to live a healthier life, recover from Alzheimer's, but it's even something that anyone can implement into their life. And it actually makes you a healthier person and live a longer life.
So from Patricia, she's asking, I'm surprised you have dairy in the meals. I thought you needed to avoid both gluten and dairy for the best results. So great point. We want to have as much variety as possible, and we need things to be satiated. We want residents to feel satisfied. So dairy is one thing that we can do. We don't do it for everyone. We've had residents with lactose intolerance, and we avoided using dairy for them. So it's not for everyone. Certainly you can be on a ketogenic diet and not use any dairy. We use only organic grass-fed dairy. And so when we're talking about animal proteins, even if they're coming from dairy, if they are grass-fed, they are much, much, much less inflammatory. We also don't use huge amounts of them, right? So people are not eating blocks of cheese. We're using like a butter sauce, or we're using cheese as one component of a recipe that has a lot of other things in it. So this isn't a cheese-based diet. It is using cheese, again, as like a condiment. Janice has a question about not losing weight on the ketogenic diet. So this is such a phenomenal question. Most people do lose weight, but what we're doing, again, is we're changing metabolism. So what's happening is you're utilizing fat that's stored, which is highly inflammatory, especially if it gets oxidized, and you're replacing it with muscle. So this requires exercise and working with a doctor, typically to get you on hormones like estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So that hormone replacement coupled with good exercise, both weight-bearing exercise or strength training and cardio, that combined means, yes, you may lose some fat, but you're going to gain muscle. And so the weight should balance out. I have had this concern as well, and as a clinician have asked many other smarter doctors than me who have come before me, Dr. Stephen Gundry and Dr. Perlmutter, Dr. Bredesen, and they have reminded me that a low BMI is actually correlated with a better not only lifespan, but health span. So being overweight is much more dangerous than being a little bit underweight. And I know this is kind of scary to think about, especially with our elderly folks. You don't want to lose too much weight. They need those reserves in case they get sick or something. But what we want is strong weight, right? So getting that exercise, having the hormones, stimulating the production of new things, new muscle and new neurons, neurogenesis. Where are we? Oh, perfect. There's more. Pamela is asking about the nightshades. So Chef Julio was talking about using salt to eliminate some of what's associated with the nightshades and the toxicity in the nightshades. So I don't know, to be honest, to what degree that gets rid of it. If you have osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis or any sort of arthritis or joint pain, avoid nightshades, right? You don't have to incorporate everything that we're saying here tonight. If you know that you need to avoid nightshades because of your health condition, then absolutely avoid that, right? We are not suggesting that you adopt every single thing you see here tonight, more that you are inspired to try new things and to add different things to your diet to mix it up a little bit, and know that it can be exciting and fun and satisfying.
Yeah, everything for the vegetable stack, you can use any type of vegetable that you would like to use, even broccoli or cauliflower or asparagus. It can all go into that vegetable stack because they're all just individually organic vegetables that you yourself may like or consume, and you just put it on a plate. That's all it is.
Or maybe they're seasonal, right? That's what's in season. Exactly. So bacon, great a question about bacon. I love it. So you're absolutely right. Is bacon bad or good? So a little bit of bacon here and there is not terrible. It's very flavorful, right? It stinks up the whole house. I know when there's bacon cooking, but a little bit of bacon goes a long way. And again, we're using 100% organic, regeneratively farmed pigs in this case. So we don't use a ton of it, but it can make a meal really satisfying and really kind of exciting because it's special, right? This is not something happening every day, but something to throw in here in here and there, which is the case with a lot of these things. We want variety.
Yeah, everything has to be really well balanced, even when it comes to dairy and bacon, fat, just like that. Of course, right? Too much of something is bad. So we have to rotate. Okay, how many times are they going to eat bacon this week? Or how many times are they going to have eggplant this month? Things like that also have to be put in play when it comes to making the menu and giving the residents the proper amount of nutrients, the proper amount of vitamins and fiber and proteins they need for their recovery.
Exactly. So quick housekeeping, how do you sign up for emails? Head to the maramaexperience.com website. There should be a place there that comes up pretty quickly and easily to add your email there. If you got this email, then you probably are signed up. But if someone forwarded you the email to sign up for this webinar, then make sure you go back to the maramaexperience.com website and get on our mailing list for further webinars like this, also announcements, changes, and that free PDF with all of these recipes that we're busy creating right now. Food sensitivities. We did chat a little bit about this. This probably came in before that. So we've had residents with food sensitivities, and absolutely we can individualize things so that that resident isn't getting exposed to the sensitivities that they have. So we're constantly in communication with the residents' doctors, with their power of attorney, whoever's the responsible party, and discussing these things and adapting the program and the diet as well to make sure it fits that individual's needs. Oh, this is wonderful. There's a great gluten-free scanner app for your phone to help scan barcodes to see if the product you're looking for has been listed as gluten-free. It's called the GlutenFree Scanner. So helpful. Thank you, Carrie, for reminding everyone that that is a quick, easy way. Also, the Healthy Living app by EWG, that is another app you can put on your phone, and you can scan the barcodes of produce and figure out if things are in the clean 15 where they don't necessarily need to be organic, or if you can, if you really, really need to, if they're in the dirty dozen, you must buy them organic. So that's things like celery, spinach, a lot of the things that end up going into those green juices. Oh, great question. Chef Julio, what are some things people can do at home to help prep cooking meals in bulk for the week, or a few recipes at a time to cut down on how many meals they're needing to prepare and simplify the process? So many of us are so busy juggling family and work, and maybe even caring for a loved one, an elderly loved one at home. So how do we make it easy?
That's a great question. So it really depends on what you yourself like to eat or what you want to serve to whoever you're cooking for. But this is the thing. Sometimes we think that with one ingredient, we can only make one thing. One ingredient can actually be made into multiple things. For example, chicken. Is there only one dish of chicken in the whole world? No, you can make chicken parmesan, you can make chicken costeletta, you can make chicken fricassee, you can make chicken soup. So focus if you want to make simple, right? Either buy one or two types of protein, and then you can use that same protein in different types of dishes. Now, when it comes to coming up with dishes, different what's it called? Different nationalities, different cultures, and different, like for example, Italian or Spanish. A lot of these different types of cultures use the same ingredients in a different way, even though it's a different dish, like tomatoes or bell peppers or onions. So try to focus on one culture, two different ingredients, and just the same, you'll see that the same recipes contain same ingredients, same items. So you wouldn't have to purchase a variety of different types of ingredients at the grocery store. You would just have to buy, let's say, like a bag of tomatoes, a bag of onions, a bag of bell peppers, and 5 pounds of chicken. And that will give you your meal prep for the whole week. And you can look up recipes or find different ways to cook the chicken with the bell peppers and tomatoes and things like that. So it really cuts down on the labor, and it cuts down on how many recipes you're going to Google or how many things you're going to make. It actually helps because you might need tomatoes for this recipe, but you also need tomatoes for this recipe. So just cut tomatoes for both recipes.
One thing I've seen, I know we did early on at Marama to make things simpler, and especially in the crazy COVID times here, we would do an egg bake. So we would have like a 9x11 pan and do one egg bake that would last for several days. So that everyone had plenty of food, and it was still keto, and it was fresh. You could just throw it in a toaster oven to heat it up. And that was a great way to save some time in the morning. And then you could put a little bacon on it one day, or a little bit of cheese on it, an avocado on it the next day, some cilantro on it. And then so you can mix up. I love what you said about different cultures. Certainly at my house, this is one of the things that we do to get inspiration, is to go, okay, where are we traveling to tonight when we make the dinner decision? Let's do Japanese food, or let's do Mexican food, or let's do Thai food. And we can use those spices, even though it's the same veggies and maybe some ground turkey. If we put those different, if it's ginger and sesame oil one night, the next night it can be like cumin and some of the yummy marsala sauces. And now we've traveled to India. So that's a way to keep things fresh, is just switching up those spices. Oh, can you please open a restaurant? Yeah, I know. No, you can't have him. So from Margot, how can someone find a nutritionist to help them guide implementing this diet at home? Fantastic question. I'm so glad you asked. So apollohealthco.com is, or if you Google Dr. Bredesen Apollo, that is where you can find links to a lot of the Recode trained providers. And in there are health coaches and nutritionists. So they're fantastic. Amy is also a wonderful, wonderful resource. Can you see her name, hopefully? At the top. So Amy Berger, I interviewed her on the Reverse Alzheimer's Summit. So if you want to visit that website, or if you haven't, go back and listen to her interview. She gives a ton of great tips. And she also has another book about making keto easy. So those are a couple resources for you. Is coconut sugar acceptable? I don't think so. I think that raises your blood sugar. I'm not 100% sure. So Joan, we're going to have to get back to you. This is a fantastic question that I don't know the answer to. What I will say is chef, tell us what sweeteners do we use?
We use monk fruit or a natural sweetener, such as berries, maybe berry juice, or a lot of, I don't know if you've heard, but when you cook onions, they get caramelized. Caramelized means sugar. So every ingredient that you may use in cooking has some sort of natural sugar in it. For example, today we made chicken fricassee, which contains onions, a small amount of carrot and celery, and garlic. So the more I cooked, it's called mirepoix. the more the sweetness of the onions, the sweetness of the carrots, and the celery and garlic all came out. And all I had to do was add chicken broth and the chicken and let it simmer. And then at the end, taste it. It's completely like, it has that right sweetener that's needed for anyone to be satisfied with the dish. And then you just finish it with salt. So a lot of the ingredients and sugar we use has to be natural. But a lot of the things that you cook, the sugars naturally come out of it. Mhm.
Yeah, such a great point. So what you do want to avoid is anything that raises your blood sugar. And like I mentioned at the beginning, is everyone's a little bit different. So it may be that one person can do coconut sugar and another person can't. I can't tell you how many times I've been talking to a husband and wife and they're using the Keto Mojo at home and he can eat white rice. I couldn't believe it. He could eat white rice and stay in ketosis. And of course she fell out of ketosis. A woman who could eat zucchini, but her husband couldn't and stay in ketosis. So getting that feedback, like strips are expensive. They tend to be about $1 a piece. So you don't want to do it forever. But if you can do it for about a month after different foods or different meals that you have a question about whether or not you're able to stay in ketosis consuming them, then you can get that feedback and then, take that data and that information into the rest of your life. So that's an answer to Mary here asking, how do you know if you're in ketosis? Some people know because they feel different. So cognitively, they kind of wake up, they brighten up. We can see it when people move into Marama. Usually around week 3, they're like flowers that start to like bloom. It's really just such a privilege to get to watch. And so sometimes, because you're losing weight, you get that mental clarity. For other people, it's a little, and typically this is when you're not getting that direct feedback, then you want to go to the blood ketones. It's a finger stick, and the Keto Mojo is the one that we use. There is the BioSense, the keto breath test. This one is, it's hard to know what number means ketosis. So you have to work with a provider, work with someone who can help you calibrate that so that you know if 28 means ketosis for you or if 58 means ketosis for you. Everyone's a little different. Then Diana, thank you for this question. How do we know that the foods are organic besides the label? How about the water? Are you using an independent testing company? So yeah, there was a big question about the water that came up this week. And so we contacted Carlsbad Alkaline Water and we said, hey, we're a little concerned about something called MTBE, might be getting into your water, and also glyphosate, because we saw some numbers from some patients of mine and they drink exclusively Carlsbad water like we do here. So Carlsbad Water had a third party test their water and then sent us the results. So we are constantly looking and doing our absolute best to make sure that we're getting our residents the best, least toxic products. Now, we live in a toxic world, so this is not going to be 100% perfect. I don't know that absolutely pure water exists anymore. I mean, as sad as that sounds, and this is a problem that will only get worse. So we are doing the best we can with what we have. We have to trust our farmers. We have to trust the grocers. We can drive ourselves crazy wondering if it's accurate, but we test our residents. And so what we see is that they have lower levels than average of the toxins, of the chemicals, and we certainly see that we are getting into ketosis. Keto seems to encourage the use of fat. Do I have to worry about developing gallstones that may lead to having my gallbladder out? So good question. You want to have plenty of enzymes. So if you are someone who has trouble digesting fats, something you can consider and talk to your doctor about is potentially having some like digestive enzymes. I tend to like the Pure Encapsulations Digestive Enzymes Ultra with HCl. That's a way that you can make sure that you're getting, as long as it has lipase in it, amylase, lipase, there's a handful of pancreatic enzymes, and then that hydrochloric acid that's a digestive enzyme in the stomach. If you can, maybe especially when you're transitioning towards keto, if high fat diet is new for you, you may want to have some extra digestive enzymes on board. Can organic unsweetened pea protein powder be used in smoothies on the ketogenic diet? I don't know. You would probably want to, peas would tend to raise blood sugar, especially if they're concentrated. I don't know how much carbohydrate or sugar is in that pea protein. You'd want to look at the label and look for how many carbohydrates, how many sugars. If that's high, then probably not. The other thing that you can do is have it and then check your ketones. Use a blood meter to check your ketones.
You can also use edamame. Edamame is also a good substitute for peas.
Oh, yum. Yeah, a little bit of soy. Organic, of course.
Organic.
And then how long do patients typically stay at Marama, permanently or for a course of treatment? So it depends how much we like you. I'm just joking, but we have residents who have been here for over 18 months. We love them. We're so grateful that they were our first residents to move in, some of our first residents to move in. And we're just so grateful. They were really pioneers in this space. They put their trust in us in the middle of COVID, really at the height of COVID, and they get better all the time. Actually, Chef is pretty new, and he asked someone one day, is she meant to be here, or is she just here supporting her husband? Because her short-term memory loss has essentially resolved, which has been, I mean, it brings me to tears. It's so wonderful to see how much progress she's made, and she's continuing to make progress, as is her husband. So typically, it's not really typical yet. We are relatively new. We opened in March of 2020. So we have several residents who've been here for a year or more, but have a lot of new residents. And what we typically see is people start getting better after about a month. Not always, we can't promise that. And some people have the ability to stay longer. Some people have family around. Some people want to get home as quickly as possible. Everyone's scenario is a little bit different. My dream is to have plenty of space so that you can stay as long as you want.
I have seen one resident really increase with his mindset and his personality. So he, at once, right, he was very struggled to be here because of the whole change, the diet, environment. But now he's actually one of the most joyful residents, and actually brings joy to us even while we work. So the environment here is really beneficial. It's really positive. And the residents, he's always complimenting the food, which surprises me because in the beginning he says it doesn't taste like anything. This is nothing. But now everything that we serve him, he enjoys, even though it's ketogenic now. So now his taste buds completely changed in a better way. Now he can live natural, healthy, and achieve that recovery that we're looking for in the Alzheimer's.
That's such a great point, Chef. The side effects of the Bredesen protocol, right? The goal is to recover memory and to recover that cognitive function. The side effects are blood sugar balance, the resolution of diabetes in some cases, the resolution of hypertension. So blood pressure gets resolved and people can come off antihypertensive or their blood pressure medications. Mood stabilization is a huge one, which is what you're referring to. We see kind of in seeing people blossom as they get on the protocol. We certainly see their mood stabilize, which is it's just so wonderful to see, right? Their experience of the world is filled with much more joy, much more contentment, and it's more fun for us too. At Costco, there are Keto Bites made with erythritol. I find it upsets my stomach, but I do well with stevia. What sweeteners do you use? Thank you, Kathy. We use mostly monk fruit and some stevia. The sugar alcohols that's very typical. The other thing with anything from Costco that says keto on it, 9 out of 10 times, you will not be able to get into ketosis eating that product. We've seen this over and over again at the clinic at Solsari. So I would avoid that. I would avoid anything at Costco that says keto. Get the organic produce, get the organic eggs, get the organic meats, but stay out of that packaged food area. And then, yeah, stevia is great. It's a great sweetener. We talked a little bit about sweeteners, and just even with monk fruit, you do have to be just a little bit wary. If it's dose dependent, but it can cause loose stools. So be careful there. Again, from Margot, are all residents on hormone replacement? I'm 76 and considering it. Is there a cancer risk for women my age using hormone replacement? Fantastic question, Margot. There are lots of other resources for this. So one, I had a summit interview with a doctor, and so, and of course I'm blanking on her name. I'm feeling the pressure here, but I will remember in a moment. There also at the Solseri website, there is a webinar on the neurocognitive page where we talk a lot about hormones and what's going on there. So at Marama, by definition, we are residential, not medical. So any hormones need to be prescribed by a physician. Most, if not all, of the Marama residents right now are established with a great doctor, some of the ones that we refer to in San Diego, who are prescribing hormone replacement when appropriate. So the cancer risk is usually not an issue unless you have a personal history of cancer or a BRCA gene that puts you at high risk. So for the majority of people who are experiencing cognitive decline, the risk of not being on hormones is higher than the risk of getting on them. So remember that hormones protect not only your brain, but also your bones and also your heart. So this is typically, the risk-benefit analysis goes in the direction of benefit. Do we store containers in plastic? Do we store anything in plastic?
No, everything that's left over and stored and prepped is all stored in glass.
Yeah, and we don't have a microwave either. I think sometimes staff might hate me for it, but we don't want it around. Dr. Cass, thank you. Thanks for the great webinar. Oh, thank you. Tom O'Brien has said, even he who is scrupulously gluten-free shows up with antibodies. And he cited research too. So there's the inevitable traces of gluten, and he takes a gluten blocker regularly. Of course, he promotes his, and it looks good, but there are others out there. Thank you so much, Dr. Cass, for sharing that. That's a really great point, is that most of us are going to be exposed to gluten at some point, even when we're trying really hard to avoid it. So having some sort of enzyme that you can take in the event that that happens, it's a great idea. What should we know about salt on a healthy diet?
Salt. There's different types of salt: kosher salt, Iva salt. The salt that we use here is Himalayan salt, all natural salt. There's a little difference between the store-bought idolized salt and the kosher salt and the Himalayan salt. So what I noticed is it takes a bigger amount of Himalayan salt, though it's natural, to season the food properly than it is with the iodized or the kosher salt. But we need to make sure that if we use a specific type of salt, it's all natural salt.
And the minerals found in sea salt. So I think some people have concerns about salt raising blood pressure. What we know about sea salt is it actually modulates blood pressure. So if you have low blood pressure, it will bring it up. If you have high blood pressure, it can help to bring it down because of the ratios of minerals in it. If you are drinking processed foods, so canned foods, things that are high in sodium alone, not the other minerals like magnesium, strontium, vanadium, calcium, if you have salt that's just sodium chloride, that can raise blood pressure, and you do want to avoid that. We really want to avoid crazy high amounts of any mineral unless you're working with a doctor and there's a therapeutic goal there. You want to be having mostly salts and in abundant amounts, so that you can maintain hydration and have enough minerals for every cell in your body to work effectively and efficiently.
Yeah, you have to well balance the amount of salt that you may take in. Even some sauces you may use, kind of like a soy sauce substitute, they also contain salt. So you don't need to use salt at all in those types of dishes.
And then there's a question about reverse osmosis. Yeah, reverse osmosis. We're in Southern California, we're essentially in the desert, and reverse osmosis strips the minerals, and there's a lot of waste of water associated with reverse osmosis systems. I believe that the statistics are you waste up to 4 gallons of water per 1 gallon that you get from an RO system. And then you must add minerals back. So that's something just to keep in mind if you're using the RO systems. There's only 1 gram of carbs in pea protein. Thank you, Marcia, for that update, for answering that question. So look at your pea protein And if it's just 1 gram of carb, that's probably just fine. Again, most people can get into ketosis with about 50 grams of carbs in a day. Everyone's going to be a little different. So if you want to use your 1 gram on pea protein, by all means. And then what is the shortest amount of time that someone can be at Marama? So 6 months is really the minimum that we recommend. There's quite a process with move-in. It takes people, most of our residents, about 3 to 4 weeks to just get settled in. And so if they're turning around and moving out at a month or even 3 months, they haven't really started getting the benefit of the program. The way Dr. Bredesen describes it, it's like we have a great big tanker ship headed towards China at full speed. And we have to first, in order to turn around, we have to first slow it down. And then we need to start turning it around. And then we get going in the other direction. So this is a disease, Alzheimer's is a disease, it's decades in the making before you start to notice those memory changes. And so what we need to do is give it adequate time, give us adequate time, and not have unrealistic expectations about how quickly that we can reverse it. Now, I have seen patients in just 6 weeks in a month reverse cognitive decline and be going in the other direction. And these are absolute miracles. Happen sometimes, but not every time. And so we want to give our loved ones adequate time to get all of that. Dr. Bredesen has phenomenal resources. His books have the protocol, the reverse Alzheimer's, the program, reverse Alzheimer's disease program. And there's the end of Alzheimer's program is one of the newer books. And then there's the first survivors of Alzheimer's. And both of those books are fantastic, but the reverse Alzheimer's program, the end of Alzheimer's program, my summit was called the Reverse Alzheimer's Summit. I'm sorry, I'm mixing them up in my mouth. The end of Alzheimer's program is the one that you want to go to for that detailed copy of the Bredesen protocol. Thank you, Mary, for that question. So what kind of water would I suggest if not RO? So I drink either Mountain Valley spring water or the Carlsbad water here. Intermittent fasting. So Malin, thank you very much for that question. My thoughts on intermittent fasting, you may have noticed this, we glossed over it, but we have all of our residents wait 3 hours between dinner and bedtime. And that gives them, is it a full 15 hours? I think it's 16 hours.
They eat breakfast at 8 a.m.
At 8. So they eat from their eating window is from 8 a.m. until 5:30. And so they are intermittent fasting. Other people have noticed great benefits from, decreasing the eating window to 6 hours, 5 hours. It's definitely something to play with. And is it okay to use exogenous ketones to help jumpstart ketosis? Absolutely. I think it's a great trick. They're very sweet for me, so I don't love the taste. But for some people, they are an absolute game changer. They really help to get up over that hump through the hunger, through the keto flu. So it can be a really fantastic addition. Usually you want to work with your doctor to help figure out what the best supplements are for you on the Bredesen protocol and help prioritize.
Really what the Bredesen protocol does is it focuses on the root for everything in all the Alzheimer's to get better and the residents to actually achieve that decline of dementia that they have attained. But everything begins from the root, even with food. So think about it, we eat every day, and that's what has happened in society is the food that we eat is not very natural, not organic. And, even there's places that give patients to have Alzheimer's such a bad diet that doesn't help them, but actually makes them decline even more. Marama focuses on the all natural, organic, healthy foods, beginning from even what they drink as tea or even like vinaigrettes, salads, everything. That actually starts from the bottom and then recovers even from their environment to the water they drink. Everything that you surround yourself with, starting from the root, allows recovery and allows even your family members to come back, as they were before, and prevent even further Alzheimer's or worse Alzheimer's, even from the food we eat.
Chef, thank you so much for your time, for sharing your wisdom. Do you have any last parting thoughts for anyone getting on the ketogenic diet at home? What's your favorite meal?
Well, my favorite meal when it comes to ketogenic diet is it has to be the beef, the protein or the meats, such as the fish as well. So I like the fact that the ketogenic diet contains a lot of the proteins that we can eat and a lot of the vegetables. I myself wasn't really a big carbohydrate eater. I didn't really eat too much breads or things like that. So I didn't really understand the ketogenic diet too much until I was fully immersed in it, and how the variety of different types of meats and vegetables the ketogenic diet contains. So even that fresh, like ribeye, prime rib, like everyone loves those meats. So it doesn't make the ketogenic diet boring. Just go and, make a good keto dinner, buy a good ribeye prime rib with a nice salad.
Yum. We did a ribeye at my house last night. We did a ribeye with green beans and cooked spinach. And I had it for lunch today. It was absolutely delicious, totally satisfying. And it took about 15 minutes to make. So don't get too overwhelmed. Just get started. This is so helpful for your brain. Put your health first and let us know what other questions we can answer. We're here for you. Give us a call, chat with us on through the website. Go to that apply page, and Carrie will get back to you and answer any questions that you have, and also start the process of moving in if that serves you. Bye for now. We will see you at the next webinar.
Thank you.